last round. Thought I'd treat myself. Come a long way since I was sleeping on floors and getting lifts everywhere. Anyway, roll prompter. Well, what an emotional race we have just experienced here in Mont Saint Anne. With big changes in the future, this race feels like kind of like the end of an era, which just elevated everyone's feelings during the event. Mont Saint Anne is a rider's favourite with an amazing mix of speed, features and technicality that challenges riders in all aspects, especially when it's a little wet. Honestly, I think this track is at its most difficult with a small amount of moisture. The fast bits are still super fast, but the rocks are just that little bit more lethal. And judging, the pacing becomes a blend of skill and luck that creates some exciting moments. An interesting note, before we dive into the recaps, I did not notice a single mechanical in race runs. I don't think that's happened here in a long time. Anyway, the junior women's racing kicked off on the misty Mont Saint Anne mountainside with conditions that looked positively treacherous. The smooth rocks, dark dirt and moisture from the overnight rain presented a technical challenge for the riders. We could see the caution for most, and even the riders who did dip into the aggressive did so with reserve. The riders that didn't hold back quickly found the limits and went well beyond them. Heather Wilson had more than a few moments. Ella crashed in a couple of spots, Sasha stalled against a tree, and even Eris van Leuven had a crash out of sight of the live feed. Despite the crash, Eris maintained her speed and composure and still managed to take the win from Sasha Ernest in second and Kale Cushman, who had an excellent run back in third. Eris has been dominant in her junior years with 2 World Championship wins and 2 World Cup Series medals, with the final one being a win. Amazing consistency despite the various struggles and injuries, and we'll be seeing her on an elite podium in the near future. With the junior men starting, I was expecting the cloud to burn off and the vision to improve, but unfortunately for the viewers, it was still tricky to see what the riders were up to in the upper sections. Luckily though, that meant the conditions remained consistent for some nice, fair racing. You could see the junior men were a little more carefree, comfortable with taking risks. No, not that. Let's go with overconfident. That led to some impressive visuals for those watching, and boy, did that rock garden produce some moments. We analysed that section in our Inside the Tape video, so if you want to see some close-ups that show why it's so hard, go check that out after this video. We saw Oscar Griffiths punch the filling out of a crash pad. Michael De La Salle somehow keeping his bike on track. Millen's painful crash on that final turn. Raphael had a couple of huge dismounts, and Big Gavin crumpled in the rocks. And there was some absolutely silly riding from the French twins. Till Alran has shown promise all season, but has just lacked that race run intensity to put himself on the podium. What you might not know is that growing up, Till was actually the faster twin, winning all the races in France ahead of his brother Max. This flipped at the World Cups, but it looked like Till might have found the intensity to challenge for the win with a super fluid and stylish run. It wasn't to be though, as Max somehow rode even smoother and even more relaxed while somehow going over 5 seconds faster. I mean, that is insane, and it allowed him to secure the win, the World Cup Series title, and it was just so cool and confident. The only issue on camera was when he put the front wheel into a rock edge, but he didn't even flinch, and if he did, I did not notice it. The peak of the run though was that scrub on the bottom hip, and for me, he didn't even need to finish after that. I just had to sit back and just had to have a little moment. Oh, I can't forget Tyler Waite in third with a really impressive and powerful run. He demonstrated his fitness and drive with that pedal pull over that lower woods gap. With that result and Asa missing with a broken back, Max wins the overall, Luke Wayman slots into second with a really impressive and consistent season, and Asa manages to claim third despite missing a round. What's super exciting though is that the Alrans, Tyler Waite and Asa, are all first-year juniors, and we'll get to see them race again in junior next year. Bring it on. With the women's elite title all sewn up for Valley Hole, it was looking like we should see some big displays from the other riders trying to claim a race win at the final round. Valley actually came out swinging, going fastest at the first 2 splits, but then she played it smart, rode clean through the sketchy lower woods, and put herself into third on the day to round out an exceptional year. Some riders weren't so clean, with Nina Hoffman blowing clean over the first turn, Anna Newkirk slipping and caving in the rock garden, Louise slipping on a route and then closely inspecting the trackside foliage, and race favourite Miriam Nicole washing out in the flat 90-degree turn in the mist. Tanny Seagrave also had a few spills over the weekend, was nursing an injured thumb going into her run to try and protect her second overall position. It wasn't to be, with the rough track beating up that injured hand and forcing her to back off and drop back into third in the overall. Maureen Cabarrou smelt blood and went in for the kill with an unbelievable run. Aggression and composure the whole way down. She was the fastest and most precise of the elite females in that rock garden, which was just incredibly impressive. With that insane run, she took the win here in Mont Saint Anne and claimed second in the overall. As the elite men kicked things off, the reports started to come in that the rain that was not forecast was starting to tentatively fall on the overcast hillside. With a full 30 riders of racing to come, it was hard to predict if conditions would get better. Maybe the rain would clean the rocks, making them grippier, or worse, maybe the dirt would get stickier and it would be harder to carry speed. Maybe both would happen. I mean, no one could tell. All I know is that when Laurie Greenland laid down his energetic and aggressive run, it was not crazy to think he might just have the comeback of the year and win the whole race. Side note, it is rad to see he's getting a handle on his chronic fatigue and going fast again. It was sick to watch. It was when Loris Vergier struggled to slow down coming into the Stevie Smith drop that I was starting to think that it just might not be possible and Laurie was going to win. And then lucky Stevens McNabb laid down a run that was, in his words, nothing special, and he piloted his bike into the hot seat right in the middle of the worst conditions. His precision and speed out of that middle rock garden was exceptional. I don't think anyone else carried as much speed as he did out of there. Unbelievable riding. After that, we saw rider after rider getting close but not having an answer to Lucky's magical run in the wet. Ronan got so sideways he nearly went backwards. Isles laid it down where the live feed camera was broken, typical. Typical for the camera, not Finn. Finn, don't hurt me. No, I didn't mean it that way. Bruni lost his focus and didn't go fast enough. Dakota missed a course marker, and then it came down to the last man on the hill, Troy Brosnan. The rain continued to fall as Troy, the man who missed the last World Cup to be there for the birth of his child, set out the start gate to do what he does best, go really fast on a bike, and boy did he. Fastest at the top splits, back at the middle splits, so precise and clean, no big mistakes, one big nosedive out of the rock garden, but honestly that was the only mistake I could see in his run. On the gas across the line, and Troy Brosnan wins it. Mont Saint Anne, scoring me enough points to win the Pinkbike Staff Fantasy League and bragging rights for the next 6 months. Go on, Troy. It was so cool to see everyone lining up to just give Troy a big hug. A great dude, a new dad, and a deserving winner of some race. Finally, I'd like to change the energy and dip into the story of the race for me. And today's story is about change. And change is scary. It can make things worse. It can make things better. It can and often does do both. Familiarity with old routines and safety in the knowledge of how things work is incredibly difficult to give up. And it's downright upsetting to have taken away. Forced uncertainty is awful, but it can encourage decisions that can move things on to much more positive outcomes. This can only happen by looking ahead with open minds and not backwards with negativity. I am talking about the proposed rule changes for next year, which we will go over in detail in future videos, but I've not had time to get into the nitty-gritty. The 2025 World Cup season will not look the same as it did this year. We won't see riders like George Brannigan or the greatest rider of all time, Greg Minnaar, on track as they retire from World Cup racing. There will be no more Madison Saracen team, no more Dorval Commensal team, and reduced permanent team places mean plenty of other teams will no longer be a regular fixture on the World Cups. Entries for privateers will be more restricted, and the volume of rounds on the calendar will make racing a full season too expensive for most. But as viewers, we will get to enjoy more racing next year with extra rounds. No semi-finals and the excitement of last chance qualifiers. No protected rider rules will add more risk and drama to proceedings. And then with less space for teams at the World Cups, teams will refocus into continental and national championship races, which should inject some much needed energy and funding into those events to strengthen regional racing, which is just much needed. Whenever there is change, it is so easy to hate. It doesn't require much thought or reasoning, but it also doesn't really provide much in the way of benefit. Constructive criticism with open-minded debate is how we find solutions with the best results. I don't know yet if the changes will be mostly good or bad, but I've learned to be excited for change. Change is scary, change is hard, but change is inevitable. Not me though. I'll never change. I'm still an idiot who likes overanalyzing bike races. Long may it continue! Right, give me my towel. Let's go. Yeah, put that down. Get over here.
Stop hitting me!